Hello friends. When you think about political campaign, what comes to your mind? A lot, I know, but we always think about the free food and free liquor that's being served, right, in the political meetings. And also, if you look at colleges and if you think about attendance, what comes to your mind is proxies. Why? Why does these two things happen? Let's look at those things from a different perspective today. Let's go. Hello friends, you're watching Sendil Shares. I'm your Sendil. The mental model that we're going to be discussing today is called Goodhart's law. It states that if a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. I repeat, if a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. Looking from that principle, colleges have something like a 75% minimum attendance, which is required for any student to qualify for an examination. So there is a measure to know whether the college students are attending the classes, but it has become a target such that students are pursuing proxies, that is sending somebody else in their place to put attendance for them. And in some cases, if they achieve that 72% benchmark, they don't go for any other classes as well, because it has become a target, they have achieved it, hence they don't have to go for the other classes. This has become a norm because the measure has become a target. Similarly, why do political meetings happen? A leader wants to propagate a message or a policy, share information about a policy. So the number of people who attended the meeting is a measure of the reach of the message, right? Whereas instead of that being a measure, it has become a target. The political leader wants, I need 50,000 people as my audience. So since it has become a target, so the party men go about giving free liquor and free food to bring more and more people to the meeting and so as to fulfill the target. Here it becomes useless. But is that the only reason for political meetings, to propagate a message? Not really. We can look at this from an interesting mental model as well. It's called the Bandwagon Effect. It says that if you're finding it difficult to make a decision, there are multiple options in front of you. At times, people tend to go with the popularity. So, for example, if you're going for a new location and new locality and you want to have food, you're confused which hotel to go. There are 3 hotels in front of you. You tend to go to the hotel which has more crowd because you believe that there are more crowd here, hence the food might be tasty here, the quality might be good here, hence we'll go there, going by the popularity. Similarly, if you're confused about which political party to cast your vote, and if there are 2 campaigns happening in front of you, if one of the political parties is very popular, you tend to go with them, thinking that their policies are good, their principles are nice, so on and so forth. That's the reason why the political meetings are very, very important. We shall look at the bandwagon effect in a different video sometime later. Today, let's focus more on the Goodhart's law. How a measure, if it becomes a target, ceases to be a good measure. An interesting example is the fat loss, right? Everybody these days are going behind the fat loss. But weight is one of the measures there, right? It's not a target. If you look at weight as a target, there are multiple ways to shed weight. But are you losing the fat or are you losing the muscle is a different question. So you need to have a holistic approach when it comes to the fat loss, which is not happening if you consider your weight as a target. Another example could be at your workplace. People might set sales target that is, I need you to make like 50 sales call a day. It is a measure of how effective he or she is. But when it becomes a target, the sales guy picks up a call, puts in the number, speaks to them without any intention of making that sale, because he or she is very much focused on fixing the target and not clearly communicating the sales message. So in that way, that measure has become a target, hence it is useless. Similar thing happens with YouTube trending videos, right? Earlier, the number of people watching and the video becoming trending was a natural phenomena. But nowadays, with celebrities, movies coming up, the fan clubs are making it as a target. It is in the next 24 hours, my star's trailer or song should reach this much number of views. Hence, it becomes very, very inorganic. So that's why it said that if you're measuring something, know that it might turn an authentic behavior, that a genuine behavior, into a very inauthentic one. The same thing happened with schools as well, right? When you remember school days, if the teacher said, your son is asking good questions in the classrooms, he is very, very good student. So here, this teacher is indicating that asking good questions, I'm measuring who is asking questions, and it's a measure of how attentive or how good the student is. I came to know that during my school days as well, and hence I used to ask unnecessary questions in my classroom just to show that I am a good student. There might be somebody among you who might have done that as well. It's because if someone is measuring, it turns a genuine behavior into an inauthentic one. Same thing with mark system, right? Examinations. Examinations was a measure of how well a person has understood a concept. But it has become a target these days, putting so much pressure on the students, sending them to tuitions. They ending up doing some illegal activities, sometimes proxies happening in examinations, all because a measure has become a target. So I want to share an interesting story here so that you remember this concept really well. So when English was ruling us, they were very afraid of the cobras. So what they did, bring a cobra alive or dead, you'll get a reward for that. So what happened is all the Indians, they captured the cobras, they gave it to the Englishmen and got the reward. Eventually the number of cobras got reduced. But what happened later was people started breeding cobras at their home. Really, people started breeding it, and for the sake of reward. Then the Englishmen came to know of this and they stopped this reward system. What happened later was the Indians put all these breeded cobras into the open, and there were more number of cobras than it existed before. That's why if you're measuring something, you have to be very, very careful, because it turns out genuine behavior into an inauthentic one. So having said all these things, you might wonder, Sandal, should we not measure anything then? No. If you don't measure anything, it looks like there is no one monitoring it, and hence it might lead to unwanted behavior as well. And if I measure something, it might turn something into inauthentic behavior. So it looks like a paradox. It is a paradox. So you shouldn't be looking for any solution here. But what I would like is to have some good understanding here, that measure will make certain behavioral changes. So be careful when you're putting that measure. So how do I go about this? One way is have a multi-factor measurement in place. Instead of having a single factor measurement, have a multi-factor measurement. For example, the free toilet was a good campaign that is done by the government, right? But instead of measuring just the number of toilets built, also check whether there is water facilities in those toilets. Also check whether people are using those toilets. So by introducing these factors in place, the measurement becomes better. The same thing goes with the tree planting campaigns as well. Not just the number of trees that you have planted, not the trees, the number of seeds that you have planted. Also measure whether there is water, whether it's growing. All these things makes it a really good measure. Similarly, if possible, do not explicitly mention the variables that are being measured. For instance, Oscar award or the national award doesn't mention what's the criteria based on which the award is given. There's a jury member behind it, but they don't mention it explicitly for the filmmakers. In that way, we are not having any template movies. If they had been mentioned very explicitly, we might have templatic movies coming up. But I told you, if possible, keep it, don't communicate explicitly. I mentioned it if possible for a reason. Because if you don't communicate the variables based on which the rewards are being given, people start questioning your authenticity as well. So, are you getting the money and giving the awards or rewards? Those questions might pop up. So hence, wherever possible, don't communicate the measures explicitly, wherever possible. But if it is necessary to mention the factors that are being measured, make sure the measurement is a multi-factor measurement. In that way, you make it a good measure. So I hope this mental model, the Goodhart's law, was interesting and very, very useful to you. Think about some of the measurement that's happening in your life, whether it has become a target, introspect it. If you find this interesting, please share it with your friends and family. I will catch you soon in an interesting video. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.